In the 2018 Grammys, Bruno Mars took away Album of the Year for his album 24K Magic. He was up against Kendrick Lamar, Childish Gambino, Lorde, and Jay-Z. And that's a tall request, right? They mean like Album of the Year, but that's what the Grammys do. They decide what is the best of the best music, which is usually controversial and people usually disagree, but that's what we're going to get into today. So ideally, we'll be learning the significance of the Grammys and their role in society and culture. This is not my first time talking about this though. I was actually asked to be an editor for a music site, which was pretty cool, doing reviews for music and editorial pieces. Format's different. There weren't like 20 plus people in front of me, but you know, it's an idea. So anyways, I wanted to ask you guys some questions to get a good gauge of where you are. And a few things came up, one being that 78% of you know what the Grammys are, which makes this kind of easy, and for those who don't, we will learn. 78% of you also knew to listen to a lot of music, which I'm glad because I really love music, obviously. And then 73% of you don't care about the Grammys, which is also good because I also don't care about the Grammys. On a musical spectrum, culturally, I think they're like really interesting, but as far as like musical opinion, I'm more cynical and jaded. And while not relevant, a good chunk of you thought Baby Shark was the most annoying song of the year, which is correct. It's not a Grammy nomination, but it's a correct opinion, and I want to give you validation for that. So what we're going to be covering is a few things. One is what the Grammy Awards are, who picks the Grammy Awards, and the controversy that usually follows them, because there's always controversy that follows them. I can't think of a single year where everyone was like, perfect. So without further ado, let the ceremony begin. So first off, like I said, what are they? They're an annual awards show for like the best of the music in the music industry. And they're usually like considered the highest accolade you could get in music. Even just being nominated for one's a big deal. And with that said, there's like a bunch of categories. There's 86 categories. There's a jazz category. Did you know that in 2018? They don't usually televise it because it doesn't bring in like ratings, obviously, but it's there. But there's 4 big ones, and those are the most important ones. And those are Record of the Year, Album of the Year, Song of the Year, and Artist of the Year. Now, 2 of those tend to be kind of confusing, Record of the Year and Song of the Year. And really the difference between them is the Record of the Year is for a whole production team, the mixer, and the artist for a single song. And the Song of the Year is for like the songwriter who made the melody, which seems kind of redundant to me, but whatever. We'll be mostly focusing on Album of the Year because that's where we're going to really base it off of because it's a big statement. Now, that said, who votes and how do people get picked to vote? It's an application, which is easier than I thought, and it's pretty easy to get in, actually, kind of. One, if you are a musician or a producer or something, you must have 12 tracks available online for purchase, or you can have 6 available for purchase physically, like a CD or a single promotion, or you could have been nominated for a Grammy, which is, you know, I mean, casual, that happens. Which makes it sound kind of easy to get in, but a big part factors in is your musical relevance. So me just uploading a 12-song ambient noise to Bandcamp they wouldn't consider me. But if I had a huge audience, a following, and like interviews, and had like, you know, some clout behind me, they might consider me, which is interesting. And also there's a lot of people to vote from. To quote the article, Who Votes for the Grammys, written by Anna Menta for Newsweek, the voting base is unusually large. Billboard reported 1,200 eligible voters in 2014, nearly twice as many as the Academy of Motion Picture. With so many voters and few regulations, it's no wonder why it helps to be famous to win the Grammys, which is a very true thing that we're going to come back to in a bit. But, yeah. So, that controversy I was talking about, as you can imagine, Bruno Mars winning Grammy Album of the Year was met with like mixed reception. I thought it was an okay album, maybe not Album of the Year, but you know, it was a good album. I liked it. But there's some big complaints. One of them from Grammys Ignore Pop's Evolution from the New York Times, written by John Carminka. He has a neat last name, I'm having trouble pronouncing it. But, and it's referencing the acts that performed and who won. And he said, It's designed for casual-going Grammy viewers, not the ones who need reassurance that they are not out of touch. Which is a kind of cynical quote, but I get it, you know. If my mom watched the Grammy, she would want to feel included. She does not know who Tyler, the Creator is, or a little Uzi Vert. Sounds like a foot gel. But that's kind of the consensus with the Grammys. They really tend to lean towards pop music and what's commercially viable rather than, you know, music fidelity. Which is a very common criticism. A really good one, and this one I think is interesting. So in 1992, which was celebrating the music from 1981, there was an album that came out. It was a pretty iconic rock album. It had a baby on it. It was Nirvana's Nevermind, which is hailed as this classic piece of music, right? However, it was not even a contender for the 1992 Grammys. What had won was Natalie Cole's Unforgettable with Love, which is sweet, but it's not a classic. I haven't heard that album in 20 years since it got the vote. But Nevermind is like this very iconic piece of music. It's referenced time and time again. But that's not really relevant because it was grunge and it was new and it was scary. Kurt Cobain had long hair. So anyways, to wrap this all up, what's the significance of the Grammys then? And the cultural stance they have. I really do feel that culturally, it's good to show like where music was, what was really popular, what people were tasting, what people were into. It's true. I mean, right now, Lorde, Bruno Mars, even a few years ago Taylor Swift one, that was accurate. Even if it's not like the best music there is, it is representative of the generation that is listening to it. And as far as a musical metric, I think it is good to see where pop music was, because pop music is still incredibly relevant. Even if you don't like it, it's still a very good mainstream flow. It shows where society is, and sometimes standards and culture. It has a lot of weight to it. So even though I don't personally care for the Grammys on like a musical metric, as far as like their cultural significance, I do see the importance in them. And I do recommend, well, not watching them, maybe just going online and seeing who won. I mean, it's like an hour and a half of people being like, look at my trophy. I don't want to watch that, I want the trophy. Thank you.